What's up everybody on YouTube? AJ Russ back to discuss another video, and today we will be recapping the NFL Divisional round. Alright guys, so the games are getting far and few now. As you see the one behind me, pretty much over the Bucs and the Lions. That of course will be talked about later in this video, but 4 entertaining games on this weekend for the Divisional round. I'm not really going to waste too much time when I go and get into that, but before I do, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications. Of course, hit the like button on this video. There'll be another video next week recapping the Conference Championship round and then the NFL season and the Super Bowl in its entirety. The season has really flown by, guys. It's crazy, but with all that being said, let's talk about the divisional round matchups. So the first game that took place in the divisional round was a matchup between the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. And the Baltimore Ravens took care of business, winning 34-10 in the matchup. I don't think anyone's surprised about the game, how it went. And honestly, with how the Texans have played, they've been arguably the best story in the NFL this season. Reality came crashing, and Ravens, they showed how much of a juggernaut they truly are. Their defense really dictated how the Texans played. The Texans played very conservative. They really didn't get anything going. Of course, that punt return gave them a lot of momentum, but offensively, they couldn't capitalize at all. It was very reminiscent of the week 1 matchup in terms of how the offense looked. They were stagnated, didn't get anything going in the running game. I mean, Devin Singletary only had 22 rushing yards. CJ Stroud really wasn't efficient in the game, but we can't knock him for that because the Ravens defense is the best in the league, and they showed that, and that was on full display, and they made life hard for him. And then offensively, of course, Lamar Jackson, who's probably going to win the MVP for this season, displayed how dynamic he is in the rushing game and how much of an improved passer that he is under this Todd Monken offense, as he completed 16 out of his 22 passing yards, having 152 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Then on the ground, he had 11 carries for 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, so had 4 total touchdowns in the game. The Ravens really just dominated. In the first half, it was close, but then in the third quarter and then going into the fourth quarter, the Ravens really opened up everything, and we saw why the Ravens are right now the Super Bowl favorites in not only the AFC, but in the NFL as a whole. The AFC Championship game will be really good. Lamar Jackson will have his first opportunity to be in this Super Bowl and to get a ring for Baltimore. When he was drafted, he said that Baltimore is going to get a Super Bowl out of him.
Everything out of me. They're going to get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that.
This is the perfect opportunity for him and the Ravens to do so. That offense playing like a well-oiled machine, and then defensively, they're well connected. Didn't even have Marlon Humphrey in this game. He'll probably play in the AFC Championship game, and Mark Andrews will return as well. That's going to be huge, having Likely, who stepped up, and then having Andrews. And then, of course, Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., you have him as a safety outlet. Nelson Aguilar has been playing good in that offense too. So Ravens, they've been hooping, but if you're a Texans fan, y'all overachieved, man. This was a great season for y'all. No one expected y'all to have the success that y'all had after only winning 3 games in 2022, winning the division in AFC South, and making the second round. I mean, it's an amazing jump, and their future is super bright. Next season, there's going to be a lot of people, free agents, that are going to want to play with CJ Stroud and play for D'Amico Ryans. And in the draft, who knows what type of moves they'll make, who they'll pick up in the draft and in different rounds. So this team in the AFC South with them, the Colts, and you still can't count out the Jaguars, they're going to be very interesting in the mix. So a good season for the Texans and the Ravens. They're in prime position to make the Super Bowl. The second divisional round game was a matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers were able to slightly edge out the Packers, winning 24-21. That game was really good, and the Packers, they had a hell of a season. There's no shame in losing that game. They had opportunities to win the game, and if they didn't miss that field goal initially, they could have went into overtime and anything could have happened. Jordan Love played sensational football. Of course, those 2 turnovers really killed them and ultimately led to them losing the game, losing the turnover battle. But there's no shame in this season for the Green Bay Packers. If you're a cheesehead, y'all played great football in the first round, dominating the Dallas Cowboys in the second round, and then the game against the 49ers. I know y'all scared a lot of 49ers fans because honestly, you can make the argument that the Packers should have won that. They played really good football, but the better team did win in my eyes. But it's insane how great Green Bay is at identifying quarterback talent and then drafting them. Of course, with Brett Favre, then Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love, they have a dog going into the future. And that young core, this is a young team, the youngest team in the NFL. Having pieces like Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Musgrave, they have a bright future. And we know that the Detroit Lions won the NFC North this year, and of course, they're going to the NFC Championship game, which we'll talk about next. But the Packers, they're right back, and don't be surprised if they win the 2024 NFC North title and make some noise in the NFC, because we saw it on full display in the playoffs. They can get hot. But talking about the 49ers, we expected them to win the game, of course, being the best team in the NFC, earning that first round bye and being the first seed. But this was a tough game for them, and honestly, this is probably something that they needed, humbled them a little bit after having that week off, and then going into this game, the NFC Championship game against the Lions. That's going to be really interesting. Initially, I would say that the 49ers should dominate, but not everything that should happen will, and it could be an interesting game. The Lions, they have a lot of grit. They are a hungry team. Going into Santa Clara, though, that will be a tough game, and that 49ers defense, if they can get on Jared Goff, it could get ugly. I feel like they get a lot of pressure on him, but only time will tell. The Lions defense, they have played better in moments, but I do believe that the 49ers offense could get the best of them. But the 49ers, like I said about the Ravens, they're in prime position to make the Super Bowl, but only time will tell. We'll see what happens in these conference championship games. It does suck though that Deebo Samuel did suffer that shoulder injury, but he made it seem like that he's going to try to play in the conference championship game. That'll be a huge difference because without him on the field, the 49ers are a different team. But we know the way weapons that they have, of course, having Christian McCaffrey, who had 98 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in the game against the Packers, then Brandon Ayuk as well, and George Kittle, who had a really good game, having 81 receiving yards and a touchdown, just making a huge difference. And Brock Purdy helped lead them on a game-winning drive. Didn't have the best game, but he still played well, so that's what matters most, and they won the game. So the 49ers, like I said about the Ravens, those have to be the 2 favorites going into the conference championship game to meet in Super Bowl 58, but we'll see. The games have to take place, and the game is played on the field, not on paper. The game that I was just talking about earlier, the Lions against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Lions were able to win at home, their second home playoff game after not having a home playoff game in 30 years. They beat the Bucs, winning 31-23, and this game was really close for most of the game. They did get up by 2 scores in the fourth quarter, but then Tampa Bay scored a touchdown to get that 23 points, but the Lions were able to shut things down. Their offense really had their way the whole time, so the Lions really dictated what the Bucs were able to do. And Jared Goff, he had a really good game, completed 30 out of his 43 passing attempts, had 287 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Jameer Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown were also key players in the game, as Gibbs had 74 rushing yards and a touchdown, and then St. Brown had a touchdown and 77 receiving yards. The game was really good. I did believe that the Lions are the better team, but how the Buccaneers have been playing, especially after that Philadelphia win, they had a lot of momentum, and that defense is really good. So I went into the game thinking that anything could happen. And Baker Mayfield, besides those 2 interceptions in the game, he had a pretty good performance, I would say. That last interception, though, definitely did cost him, because they had a chance to go on a drive to score a touchdown and potentially tie things up to maybe go into overtime, but that happened to no avail. But you have to give props to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They overachieved, I would say. No one expected them to make the playoffs, to have a positive record over 500, but they did indeed do that. And Baker Mayfield, he proved to the NFL world, the Buccaneers, and to himself that he is a starting level quarterback and above average quarterback as well. So I believe they should pay that man for sure, maybe to like a 2 to 3 year contract, similar to what Geno Smith had, because this team is still playoff ready, I believe. In the NFC South, they're still weak. Who knows if the Atlanta Falcons are gonna end up signing Bill Belichick as their coach and what moves they could make at quarterback. But right now, the Bucs, this is their division, and they almost went to the NFC Championship game. I mean, that's a positive season, I would say. You have a good running back in Rashad White, who had his moments this season, almost having 1,000 rushing yards for the year. And then Mike Evans, who knows what he'll do in free agency. In this game, he had a really good game too, having 8 receptions, 147 receiving yards and a touchdown. 10 seasons in the league, 1,000 receiving yards. I mean, easily a Hall of Famer from Galveston, Texas, near Houston, close to my hometown. So who knows if he'll return. If the Buccaneers were able to keep them, that would be huge. But for the Lions, they deserve this. I mean, they've been waiting for so long. You see Aiden Hutchinson right there getting interviewed. They deserve this game. They deserve this win. Playing really good football after being, and let's be real, one of the worst franchises in the NFL in terms of all the losing that they've done over the past decades. They deserve this success, and it's going to be a tough game against San Francisco, like I said a second ago. But if they come to play in Santa Clara, if they play tough football, try to dictate what they can, Dan Campbell being an aggressive coach that he is, anything can happen. So I'm looking forward to that matchup, the NFC Championship game. A good win for the Lions. Definitely a respectable and successful season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the Lions, you're going to the NFC Championship game. The last game that just ended for the divisional round was the game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. A thriller, a great game going back and forth. I believe 3 to 4 lead changes. And again, Mahomes wins in the playoffs against Josh Allen for the 3rd time in Buffalo, winning 27-24. Man, that game was spectacular. That field goal, I talked about it with the Packers and the 49ers game, made a huge difference on that game. It went to overtime, and same thing with this Kansas City and Buffalo game. It could have went to overtime as well, but he missed. I know no one's talking to him in the locker room for sure, the kicker. And that man right there, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to another AFC Championship game in Baltimore. Hey, in the playoffs, the Chiefs are playing their best football. Who knows what could happen? Of course, Baltimore has been the best team in the AFC and in the league for this year, but we've seen Mahomes in the playoffs. He has 2 rings for a reason, 2 Super Bowl MVPs and 2 regular season MVPs for a reason. So we'll see what happens. A great quarterback duel incoming between Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, literally, this felt like the game y'all are gonna get over the hump going to the championship game to potentially go to the Super Bowl, but again, it didn't happen. Don't really know who's to blame. I saw a lot of people, a lot of chatter saying that if the Bills lost this game, they should clean house with McDermott. I don't think that's the case. They had a lot of injuries, and in the game, they had a lot of injuries as well too. So it's just really sad for Buffalo, because you can tell they just put all their heart into it. But the Chiefs, they're just different. They're real. They are proven to try to be the next great NFL dynasty. And I can get into the stats and things of that nature. Mahomes had 215 passing yards. Josh Allen had 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's not really what we're going to talk about right now. It's just the opportunities and the moments of this game. We were looking forward to this game. Between all the 4 games, this was the premier matchup, and it lived up to it. And if we want to preview the championship games right now, which I can segue into, starting with the AFC Championship game, I do think that Baltimore will win, but like I just said, The Chiefs, they've been there. They've been to the Super Bowl. They won 2, so they know the experience. Baltimore under Lamar Jackson hasn't been there yet. This is their first time in the AFC Championship game with Lamar. And their defense is all world, so they'll definitely give the Kansas City Chiefs some problems. But the Chiefs defense is really good too, so we'll see what happens there. If they can try to stagnate the Baltimore Ravens offense, try to keep a spy on Lamar Jackson, but also stop those explosive plays. Mark Andrews coming back, it's going to be a real help to that offense. The only time will tell with that. But like I said, I do think Baltimore will go to the Super Bowl. And if you look at the Super Bowl logos, I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen this on social media with the past 3 Super Bowl logos, pretty much hinting the teams. I don't think that the NFL is scripted, but that is pretty suspect. You know, the Super Bowl 58 logo is purple and has hints of red, so purple for the Ravens and red for the 49ers potentially. We'll see. But going into the NFC Championship game, I do think that the 49ers will win against the Lions. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a blowout, but I did talk about earlier, the Lions are a tough team, so they could have some grit, but I do think that the 49ers will outclass them eventually if the game is close. That wouldn't surprise me, but I just think the 49ers are better than the Lions matchup-wise. Just like how the 49ers were mismatched in terms of a matchup between the Dallas Cowboys this year, even though that was a regular season, I think it'll be similar with them against the Lions, but I could be wrong. I just feel like that 49ers defense is going to get at Jared Goff, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Hargrave, Greenlaw, Fred Warner. I mean, they have so many weapons defensively, and of course offensively, we already know who they have. And if Deebo Samuel plays too, even if he's not 100%, but if he's like 80%, still is lethal for their offense. In the Lions defense, besides CJ Gardner-Johnson and Aiden Hutchinson, you can really get at them. So that'll be an intriguing matchup, but I would say for sure my Super Bowl prediction will be the Ravens against the 49ers. I'm not going to say who I think will win yet until next week's video, but that's what I'll predict going into this conference championship week. But the divisional round, it was really good, guys. So yeah, that's pretty much the video. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this divisional round. If you enjoyed the games, especially that Bills and Chiefs game being a great cap to the weekend. And let me know some of your expectations going into championship weekend and going into Super Bowl 58. I appreciate you guys watching always. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SwaggyRuss, and also on TikTok at SwaggyRuss02 for cooking videos, shorts, reels, content, and things of that nature. More videos are on the way. Like I said, conference championship video is going to come up next week, and then we're going to recap the Super Bowl and the NFL season after that. And just stay tuned for NBA videos, pop culture videos, Marvel, DC. Like I said, cooking videos on the YouTube shorts and on my other pages as well. Y'all be blessed. Have a good one. Y'all stay safe.